when the stars went silent and the Galactic Council's thousand-year reign crumbled overnight. Humanity stood alone against the cosmic darkness. What the galaxy's greatest minds couldn't solve, a species barely past their first moon landing was about to tackle with nothing but stubborn determination and the audacity to ask why not. The universe was about to learn why underestimating humans was the last mistake civilizations ever made. The emergency beacon pierced through Earth's atmosphere at 14:32 Greenwich Mean Time on a Tuesday that would forever change humanity's place in the universe. Dr. Sarah Chun was drinking cold coffee in the SETI facility in Chile when every radio telescope on the planet suddenly screamed with incoming data. The signal wasn't the methodical mathematical progression scientists had always hoped for. It was pure, desperate panic transmitted across 47 different frequencies simultaneously. This is Emergency Protocol 7. The translated message began, crackling through speakers as the AI worked to decode the alien language in real time. The Galactic Council of Worlds has fallen. Repeat, the Council has fallen. All member species are advised to implement final defense protocols. The Devourers have breached the galactic barrier. Sarah's coffee mug shattered on the concrete floor. Around the world, similar scenes played out as humanity received its first official communication from the stars, and it was a death sentence. The message continued for 18 minutes, detailing the collapse of a government that had maintained peace across 12 sectors of the galaxy for over a millennium. The Council's capital world of Zentera Prime had gone dark 3 days ago. The massive defense fleets that had protected trade routes and settled disputes between hundreds of species had simply vanished. No wreckage, no final transmissions, just empty space where the greatest military force in known history had once patrolled. Within 6 hours, every major world leader sat in an emergency session via quantum-encrypted video link. President Williams looked exhausted as she addressed the group. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the intelligence we've gathered from the alien transmission, we're looking at an extinction-level threat. Not just for Earth, but for every living world in our galaxy. The Chinese premier leaned forward. What exactly are these devourers the message mentioned? General Martinez from the Pentagon cleared his throat. Our xenobiologists are working with the limited data we have, but initial analysis suggests they're not from our galaxy. The transmission refers to them as entropy incarnate and mentions they consume entire solar systems for energy. The barrier that kept them out was apparently some kind of technology maintained by the Council. And now that barrier is down, the British Prime Minister stated grimly. According to the timeline in the message, Earth has approximately 4 months before they reach our sector, Dr. Chen said via video link from the SETI facility. The transmission came from a Council survivor ship that's been jumping between systems, warning everyone they can reach. The Russian president spoke next. 4 months to prepare for something that destroyed a galactic government? What could we possibly do? It was then that Captain Maria Reeves from the International Space Station chose to interrupt the feed. Her image appeared on screen, her usually neat hair floating wildly in zero gravity. Sirs, madams, I've been listening to the technical data stream that's still coming through. The Council's technology, their entire military doctrine, it's all based on energy efficiency and predictable warfare. President Williams raised an eyebrow. Explain, Captain. The aliens fight like they're playing chess. Everything calculated, optimal resource allocation, minimal waste. Their ships are marvels of engineering designed for long campaigns with sustainable energy sources. But look at human military history. We don't fight like that. General Martinez nodded slowly. We fight dirty. Exactly. We throw everything we have at a problem until it breaks, or we do. We use desperate tactics, asymmetric warfare, and we absolutely refuse to quit even when logic says we should. Captain Reeves pulled up a data display showing Council ship schematics that had been included in the transmission. These vessels are incredible, but they're designed for fighting other civilized species who follow rules of engagement. What happens when they meet a species that throws rules out the airlock? The German chancellor looked skeptical. You're suggesting we can defeat something that destroyed an entire galactic civilization with conventional weapons? Not conventional, Dr. Chen interjected, excitement building in her voice. The transmission included technical specifications for faster-than-light travel. We could build ships, but we'd build them like humans, not like council species. No elegant engineering or efficient design. We'd build them tough, redundant, and absolutely ruthless. Over the following weeks, the most ambitious construction project in human history began. Every space agency, defense contractor, and research facility on the planet contributed to Project Defiance. The design philosophy was simple. If the Council built ships like luxury cars, humans would build theirs like armored trucks loaded with explosives. The first human warship looked like it had been assembled by someone who had never seen a proper spacecraft. The hull was 3 times thicker than necessary, with backup systems for the backup systems. Instead of elegant energy weapons, it bristled with railguns, missile pods, and experimental weapons that violated every known principle of civilized warfare. The fusion reactor was designed to overload on command, turning each ship into a potential nuclear bomb. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead engineer on the project, stood before a crowd of international reporters 6 weeks into construction. The aliens designed their ships to last centuries and fight efficiently. We're building ours to last one battle and take as many enemies with them as possible when they die. Meanwhile, recruitment for the new Earth Defense Force focused on the kinds of people other species might consider unstable. Fighter pilots who thrived on impossible odds, special forces operators who specialized in improvised tactics, and engineers who solved problems by hitting them with bigger hammers. The selection criteria specifically looked for individuals who had a history of succeeding when they should have failed. Lieutenant Commander Jake Rodriguez had been washing out of the traditional Navy when the alien threat emerged. His file was filled with reprimands for excessive aggression and failure to follow standard operating procedures. Now, those same qualities made him perfect for command of humanity's first interstellar warship. As he stood in the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, watching Earth shrink in the view screen, Jake felt a grim satisfaction. The ship around him was a monument to human stubbornness, armed with weapons that would horrify any civilized species. The crew was made up of volunteers who had all agreed to one simple mission: make the Devourers pay for every inch of space they took. The plan wasn't sophisticated. Intelligence suggested the Devourers would arrive in the outer system and begin consuming the gas giants for energy before moving toward Earth. The human fleet would meet them at Jupiter, where they could use the planet's massive gravity well and radiation environment to their advantage. It wasn't about winning in any traditional sense. It was about making the cost of taking Earth so high that even cosmic predators might decide to look elsewhere. 3 months after the first transmission, the completed Earth Defense Force consisted of 47 ships that looked more like flying weapons platforms than proper spacecraft. Each vessel carried enough firepower to glass a small moon, operated by crews who had trained specifically for suicide missions. They didn't expect to survive, but they were absolutely determined to make their deaths count. The last message from the Council survivor ship reached Earth 2 days before the human fleet departed. The transmission was weak and breaking up, but the meaning was clear. Humans of Earth, you fight bravely, but you face extinction itself. The Devourers cannot be reasoned with, cannot be deterred. They have consumed 47 worlds since breaking through. Save your people. Run. President Williams read the message aloud to the departing fleet via encrypted transmission. When she finished, Jake's voice came back clear and steady. Understood, command. Message received. ESS Indomitable and Defense Fleet departing on schedule. Tell the Council ship thanks for the warning, but humans don't run. As the 47 ships engaged their experimental faster-than-light drives and vanished into the void, Earth held its breath. In 4 days, they would know if human stubbornness could succeed where galactic wisdom had failed. The universe was about to learn what happened when you threatened a species that had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and 2 world wars with nothing but determination and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The Devourers had destroyed civilizations that had reached for the stars with careful planning and elegant technology. They had never encountered a species that reached for the stars by strapping explosives to rockets and hoping for the best. The first detection came from scout ship ESS Wolverine 3 hours before the main fleet reached Jupiter's orbit. Ensign Lisa Park's hands trembled as she transmitted the data back to the command ship. The readings made no sense according to everything humanity thought they knew about physics. Commander Rodriguez, Park's voice crackled through the communication system. You need to see this. The Devourers aren't ships. They're not even machines. On the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, Jake studied the sensor data with growing unease. The object approaching Jupiter looked like living tissue stretched across vast distances, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. Each creature was roughly the size of Earth's moon, with appendages that seemed to phase in and out of normal space-time. Jesus Christ, whispered Chief Engineer Sarah Walsh. No wonder the Council couldn't fight these things. How do you kill something that exists in multiple dimensions? Dr. Amanda Foster, the fleet's xenobiologist, had gone completely pale. The energy signatures suggest they're feeding on the fundamental forces of reality itself. They're not just consuming matter, they're unraveling the basic structure of space around them. Jake activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Indomitable. I know what you're seeing looks impossible, but remember what we're here for. These things want to eat our home. I don't care if they're gods or demons or something from a nightmare. We're going to make them choke on us. The human fleet formed up in a loose sphere around Jupiter's largest moon, Ganymede. The formation would have horrified any Council military strategist. There was no elegant geometry, no careful positioning for maximum firing efficiency. Instead, the ships clustered like a pack of wolves preparing to bring down something much larger than themselves. The first Devourer to enter the Jupiter system was approximately 40% larger than the others. Its form shifted constantly between states of matter, sometimes appearing solid, sometimes resembling a collection of glowing gas clouds held together by unknown forces. As it approached Ganymede, space itself began to distort around it. Target acquired, announced Lieutenant Commander Chun Lu from the ESS Defiance. Beginning attack run. The Council's military doctrine would have called for long-range engagement with precise energy weapons, carefully calculated to maximize damage while minimizing energy expenditure. The human approach was somewhat different. Every ship in the fleet opened fire simultaneously. The barrage was absolutely chaotic. Railgun rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed, nuclear missiles with yields measured in gigatons, experimental particle beam weapons, and kinetic kill vehicles filled the space around the first Devourer. The creature's form rippled and distorted as the attack struck, but it seemed more confused than damaged. Conventional weapons aren't penetrating, reported Dr. Foster. The energy readings suggest it's absorbing the kinetic energy and converting it to some kind of bioelectric field. That was when Captain Elena Vasquez from the ESS Retribution demonstrated why humans had been selected for this mission. Instead of following standard engagement protocols, she did something that would have been court-martialed in any civilized military force. She rammed her ship directly into the creature's center mass at 90% of light speed. The explosion was visible from Earth. The Devourer's form convulsed and began breaking apart, its bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically. For the first time since emerging from whatever dimension they called home, one of the creatures had been seriously hurt. That's it, Jake shouted over the communication system. They can absorb energy, but they can't handle direct physical impact at relativistic speeds. All ships prepare for ramming runs. What followed was the most suicidal battle tactic ever attempted by human forces. One by one, ships from the Earth Defense Force accelerated to tremendous speeds and crashed themselves into the Devourers. Each impact tore massive chunks from the creature's forms, causing them to writhe and retreat slightly. The ESS Tenacious, commanded by former Air Force pilot Maria Santos, took down a second Devourer by overloading her fusion reactor just as her ship made contact. The resulting explosion created a brief artificial star that completely vaporized the creature's core structure. But for every victory, humanity paid a terrible price. The fleet of 47 ships was being reduced to wreckage with each passing hour. The remaining Devourers seemed to be learning from their encounters, adapting their forms to better resist physical impacts. "We're not going to win this way," Sarah Walsh reported grimly from her engineering station. "We've taken down 3 of them, but there are 26 more heading for Earth, and we only have 18 ships left." It was then that Ensign Park aboard the Wolverine made a discovery that changed everything. While analyzing the wreckage of the destroyed Devourers, her sensors detected something impossible. "Commander, you're not going to believe this. The creatures aren't individuals. They're connected by some kind of quantum entanglement field. When we destroyed those 3, we didn't just kill them. We damaged the entire swarm." Dr. Foster's excitement was audible over the communication channel. "That explains the bioluminescent patterns. They're not random. It's a communication network spanning multiple dimensions. If we could disrupt that network, we could blind the entire swarm," Jake finished. "But how do we target something that exists in quantum space?" Chief Engineer Walsh grinned wickedly. "I have an idea, but it's going to require us to do something that would horrify every safety engineer in human history." Her plan was elegantly insane. By linking the remaining ships' faster-than-light drives together and overloading them simultaneously, they could create a massive quantum disruption field. The explosion would tear a hole in space-time itself, severing the Devourer's connection to their home dimension. The catch was that the explosion would also destroy everything within a light year of Jupiter, including the human fleet. "So we're talking about a mutual destruction scenario," summarized Commander Liu from the Defiance. "Not exactly," Walsh replied. "I've been studying the Council's FTL technology. There's a theoretical possibility of using the quantum disruption to create an escape tunnel through folded space. We could ride the explosion wave back to Earth's solar system." "Theoretical possibility," repeated Jake. "What are the odds of survival?" "Honestly, maybe 5%, but the odds of stopping the Devourers any other way are 0. The remaining 18 ships began linking their FTL drives together in a configuration that had never been tested and violated several fundamental principles of safe engineering. As they worked, the Devourers continued their approach toward Jupiter's inner moons, their forms growing larger and more agitated. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now," reported Lieutenant Sandra Kim from the ESS Persistence. "They're starting to feed on Jupiter's magnetic field. In another hour, they'll have enough energy to split into smaller units." Jake opened a channel to all remaining ships. "This is it, people. In about 30 seconds, we're either going to save Earth or create the biggest explosion in the history of the solar system. Either way, it's been an honor serving with all of you." The quantum disruption field began building between the linked ships, space itself starting to buckle under the strain. The Devourers suddenly turned their attention to the human fleet, sensing the massive energy buildup. "They know what we're doing," Dr. Foster reported. "They're moving to intercept." "Too late," Sarah Walsh announced with grim satisfaction. "Field resonance achieved. Detonation in 10 seconds. As the countdown reached 0, the 18 remaining ships of Earth's Defense Force accomplished something that the greatest military minds in galactic history had deemed impossible. They turned humanity's greatest weakness into its ultimate weapon. The explosion tore reality apart. The quantum explosion ripped through Jupiter's orbit like a cosmic chainsaw, tearing apart the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Where 18 human ships had been linked together moments before, now there existed a swirling vortex of collapsed reality that pulled everything nearby into its hungry maw. The Devourers, for the first time since their emergence into this dimension, experienced something approaching fear. Their bioluminescent communication network, which had spanned multiple galaxies across countless dimensions, suddenly went silent. Each creature found itself truly alone, cut off from the collective consciousness that had guided them for eons. On Earth, every radio telescope and deep space monitoring station registered the explosion simultaneously. The energy wave was so massive it temporarily disrupted satellite communications across the entire planet. In the emergency command bunker beneath NORAD, President Williams watched the data streams with a mixture of hope and terror. "Did they do it?" she asked Dr. Chun, who was frantically analyzing the incoming signals. "The quantum field disruption was successful," Chun replied, her voice tight with concentration. "The Devourer's communication network has been severed." But what? "I'm not detecting any human ships." The explosion consumed everything within a 2-light-minute radius of Jupiter. The silence in the command bunker was deafening. 47 crews, over 2,000 of humanity's best and brightest, had vanished in an instant. The price of their desperate gambit was almost too high to comprehend. Then, 18 hours later, something impossible appeared on the sensors. "Command, this is ESS Indomitable." Jake's voice crackled through speakers filled with static and interference. "We are alive, barely, and requesting immediate assistance." The emergency response was immediate. Every functional spacecraft in Earth's orbit redirected toward the coordinates Jake had transmitted. What they found defied explanation. The 18 human ships hung motionless in space roughly halfway between Earth and Mars, their hulls scarred and twisted by forces that should have destroyed them completely. Several vessels appeared to be held together by nothing more than emergency welds and desperate engineering. But they were intact, and more importantly, their crews were alive. "How?" was the first question President Williams asked when the communication link was established. Jake's image appeared on the main screen, his face bearing new lines of exhaustion, and his uniform torn in several places. Behind him, the bridge of the Indomitable looked like it had been through a blender. Chief Engineer Walsh's escape tunnel theory worked, sort of, he explained. When the quantum field collapsed, it created a temporary fold in space-time. We rode the wave back toward Earth, but we ended up scattered across several dimensional layers. It took us 18 hours to find our way back to normal space. And the Devourers? Dr. Foster's voice joined the conversation from somewhere off-screen. Cut off from their network, they're behaving like wild animals. Without the collective intelligence guiding them, they've lost all coordination. We're tracking 23 individual creatures, but they're no longer moving toward Earth. They're retreating? General Martinez asked incredulously. Not retreating, Jake corrected. Feeding. Without the network telling them to consume everything systematically, they're just gorging themselves on whatever energy sources they can find. Jupiter's radiation, solar wind, cosmic background radiation. They become cosmic scavengers instead of organized predators. The news was better than anyone had dared hope, but it raised new questions. Earth had succeeded in stopping an immediate extinction threat, but 23 dimension-spanning creatures were still loose in the solar system. More concerning, the quantum explosion had attracted attention from across the galaxy. Over the following weeks, ships began arriving in Earth's solar system. Not devourers, but survivors from the fallen Galactic Council. They came in small groups, refugees from worlds that had been consumed or abandoned during the chaos. What they found around Earth shocked them. Captain Zethka of the Altarian Defense Force was the first to establish contact with the human fleet. His sleek, efficiency-designed cruiser looked like a work of art compared to the brutal functionality of human vessels. "Humans of Earth," his translated message began, "we have monitored your confrontation with the Devourers. Your tactics were unprecedented. We wish to understand how you accomplished what our greatest military strategists deemed impossible." The first interspecies military conference in human history took place aboard the rebuilt ESS Indomitable 3 weeks after the battle. Representatives from 12 surviving council species attended, each struggling to comprehend human military doctrine. Commander Vextrill, a reptilian strategist from the hegemony worlds, examined human ship designs with obvious bewilderment. Your vessels have no elegant efficiency curves, no optimization for resource conservation. They appear to be designed for single-use destruction. That's exactly right, Jay confirmed. We don't build ships to last forever. We build them to accomplish one mission and take the enemy with them when they die. But this is wasteful, illogical, protested engineer Karzanth from the Silicon Collective. How can you sustain military operations with such inefficient resource allocation? Chief Engineer Walsh, whose reputation had grown considerably since the Jupiter battle, stepped forward. Because we don't fight the way you do. You fight wars to achieve objectives with minimal losses. We fight wars to win, period. When survival is at stake, efficiency becomes secondary to effectiveness. The revelation that humans approached warfare fundamentally differently from every known spacefaring species created a sensation among the Council survivors. They had spent millennia developing increasingly sophisticated strategies for civilized conflict, while humans had spent the same time perfecting the art of total war. Dr. Foster presented her analysis of the Devourer network disruption to the assembled aliens. The creature's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. Perfect coordination made them nearly invincible against conventional tactics, but it also made them vulnerable to complete network disruption. Your species recognized this vulnerability where ours did not, admitted Admiral Thex Quinn from the Core World Alliance. How? Because humans are used to fighting enemies that should be impossible to defeat, Jake replied. We've been the underdog in every major conflict we've ever faced. It teaches you to look for unconventional solutions. The conference lasted for 6 days, during which human military leaders shared their tactical approaches with fascinated alien strategists. The exchange of information went both directions, as humans learned about galactic technology and political structures they had never imagined. But the most significant development came when Admiral Thex Quinn made an unprecedented proposal. The Galactic Council, as we knew it, is gone, she announced to the assembled group. Our worlds are scattered, our fleets destroyed, our government dissolved. But here, around Earth, we have something new. Humans have proven that different approaches to seemingly impossible problems can succeed where traditional methods fail. Captain Zethka nodded agreement. We propose the formation of a new alliance, with Earth as a founding member. Not a recreation of the old council, but something that incorporates the innovation and determination your species has demonstrated. The implications were staggering. Humanity, which had been completely unknown to galactic civilization just 2 months earlier, was being invited to help lead a new interstellar government. The species that had solved its first contact situation by ramming spaceships into cosmic horrors was suddenly a major player in galactic politics. President Williams, participating via quantum-encrypted communication link, was quiet for a long moment before responding. We're honored by your proposal, but we need to be honest about something. Humans are not peaceful by nature. We're collaborative when it serves our purposes, but we're also aggressive, stubborn, and prone to solving problems with excessive force. Yes, Admiral Thex Quinn replied with what might have been a smile on her alien features. That is exactly why the galaxy needs you. The formation of the new Galactic Alliance was announced 3 days later, with Earth serving as the headquarters for military operations and strategic planning. Human tactical doctrine became the foundation for new defense protocols, while alien technology provided the tools to implement strategies that had previously been impossible. But even as diplomats celebrated and engineers shared technology, the 23 remaining Devourers continued to roam the outer solar system. They were contained for now, feeding on ambient energy sources and apparently content to avoid confrontation. However, long-range sensors had detected something troubling. More quantum signatures were appearing at the edge of detectable space. The barrier between dimensions, already damaged by the Devourer's initial breakthrough, was developing new cracks. Whatever existed in that other realm was still trying to break through. As Jake stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Indomitable, watching Jupiter's radiation storms paint the darkness in brilliant colors, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's greatest challenges were still ahead. They had won one battle against impossible odds, but the war for the galaxy's survival was just beginning. Earth had saved itself by refusing to accept defeat. Now, it would have to save an entire galaxy using the same philosophy. 6 months after the Battle of Jupiter, the new Galactic Alliance had established its headquarters on Luna Base, humanity's first permanent installation on Earth's moon. The facility buzzed with activity as engineers from dozens of species worked alongside human technicians to develop new technologies that combined alien sophistication with human pragmatism. Commander Jake Rodriguez, now bearing the title of Alliance Strategic Operations Director, stood before a massive holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked systems that had gone dark since the Devourer invasion began. Yellow areas indicated refugee populations and scattered survivors. Green showed the growing network of worlds that had joined the Alliance. The situation is stabilizing in the inner sectors, reported Captain Zethka, whose Altarian vessel now sported human-designed armor plating and weapon systems. But we're receiving distress signals from the Outer Rim territories. Something is hunting the remaining Devourer creatures. Dr. Foster, now serving as the Alliance's chief xenobiologist, manipulated the holographic display to show sensor readings from the frontier regions. These energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. Whatever is out there, it's systematically tracking down and destroying individual devourers. Could be survivors from other council races, suggested Engineer Walsh, who had become the unofficial leader of human-alien technology integration projects. Maybe someone else figured out how to fight them. No, Dr. Foster shook her head. The attack patterns are too coordinated, too efficient. This isn't desperate survivors making last stands. This is something that was specifically designed to hunt devourers. Jake studied the data streams flowing across his tactical display. In the months since the Jupiter battle, humanity had learned to read alien technology interfaces almost intuitively. The information told a disturbing story. Look at the timing, he pointed out. Each devourer elimination happens within hours of the creature entering a new system. Whatever is doing this has been tracking them across multiple sectors. It knows where they're going before they get there. Admiral Thexquin's image appeared via quantum communication link from her flagship stationed near the asteroid belt. I've consulted with the remaining council archives. There are references to something called the custodians in our oldest historical records. Automated systems designed to maintain dimensional barriers and eliminate threats from parallel realities. The implications sent a chill through the assembled command staff. If ancient automated systems were awakening to deal with the Devourer crisis, there was no way to predict how they might classify other species, particularly one as aggressively expanding as humanity. How long do we have? Jake asked. Based on the elimination pattern, approximately 3 weeks before whatever is hunting devourers reaches our solar system, Dr. Foster replied. And when it does, it's going to find 23 creatures that should have been destroyed, along with a species that used dimensional weapons without authorization. The emergency session that followed lasted for 18 hours straight. Representatives from every Alliance member species participated via quantum link, sharing their most classified historical knowledge about pre-council civilizations and ancient technologies. What emerged painted a picture of a galaxy far older and more dangerous than anyone had realized. Before the Council's rise to power, the galaxy had been maintained by automated systems of incredible sophistication. These custodians had been designed to preserve stability across multiple dimensions, eliminating any species or phenomenon that threatened the fundamental structure of reality. The Council never destroyed them, explained historian Vex9 from the Archive Worlds. They negotiated a treaty. The custodians agreed to remain dormant as long as the Council maintained dimensional stability and prevented unauthorized reality manipulation. And now the Council is gone, Jake said grimly. which means the treaty is void. Worse, added Admiral Thexquin, humanity's quantum explosion at Jupiter was exactly the kind of dimensional manipulation the custodians were designed to prevent. From their perspective, Earth represents an emerging threat that must be eliminated. The room fell silent as the full scope of their situation became clear. Humanity had saved itself and its new allies by using tactics that would mark them for extermination by systems designed to protect the galaxy itself. So what do we do? Asked President Williams via communication link from Earth. Fight another impossible battle? Actually, Chief Engineer Walsh said slowly, I have an idea, but it's going to require us to do something that will either save the galaxy or destroy it completely. Her proposal was characteristically audacious. Instead of waiting for the custodians to arrive and attempt to destroy them, humanity would seek them out and attempt to negotiate. Not as supplicants begging for mercy, but as equals offering a solution to the galactic crisis. You want to fly into the territory of ancient automated weapons systems and convince them to work with us instead of exterminating us, Jake summarized. Using what leverage exactly? The Devourers, Walsh replied. We're the only species that has successfully fought them. More importantly, we're the only ones who have figured out how to sever their dimensional connections without destroying local space-time. The custodian's elimination method leaves massive quantum scars that take centuries to heal. Dr. Foster nodded enthusiastically. It's brilliant. We approach them not as a threat, but as a solution. We offer to help them eliminate the remaining Devourers using techniques that won't damage dimensional stability. And if they decide we're too dangerous to be trusted, Captain Zethka asked. Then, we fight them the same way we fought the Devourers, Jake replied. Badly, desperately, and with absolutely no regard for the rules of civilized warfare. The mission that launched 2 weeks later consisted of 12 ships, 6 human and 6 alien. The fleet represented everything the new Galactic Alliance had learned about combining different species technologies and tactical approaches. The ESS Indomitable had been completely rebuilt, incorporating Altarian shield generators, Silicon collective computational systems, and hegemony plasma weapons alongside human engineering redundancy and weapons designed for close-quarters combat. The result was a vessel that looked like it had been assembled by a committee of mad scientists, but which could function in environments that would destroy more conventionally designed ships. As the fleet approached the coordinates where the last custodian signal had been detected, long-range sensors began picking up structures that defied easy classification. They appeared to be constructed from materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, creating geometric forms that hurt to look at directly. Contact, reported communications officer Park from her station aboard the Indomitable. We're receiving a transmission on frequencies that shouldn't exist. The message, when translated, was delivered in a voice that sounded like mathematics given audible form. Unknown vessels, you have entered a restricted sector. Identify yourselves and state your purpose or be eliminated for violation of dimensional stability protocols. Jake took a deep breath and activated the communication array. Everything humanity had accomplished, everything they hoped to achieve, came down to the next few minutes. This is Commander Jake Rodriguez, representing the new Galactic Alliance. We are here to discuss the Devourer crisis and propose a collaborative solution to dimensional stability issues. There was a pause that lasted exactly 4.7 seconds. You are the species responsible for unauthorized quantum field manipulation in Sector 7 Alpha. Dimensional analysis indicates your actions created persistent reality distortions. You are classified as a Class 4 existential threat. We use those techniques to stop an invasion of entities from parallel dimensions, Jake replied. The same entities you are currently eliminating. We believe our methods can help you complete this task more efficiently. Another pause, this one lasting 8.3 seconds. Explain. What followed was the most important negotiation in the history of multiple species. Jake, supported by Dr. Foster's scientific analysis, and Engineer Walsh's technical expertise laid out humanity's understanding of devourer biology and their methods for severing dimensional connections. Your elimination technique is effective but creates lasting damage to local space-time, Dr. Foster explained, transmitting her research data. Our disruption method achieves the same result while allowing dimensional barriers to heal naturally. This approach requires close-range engagement with dangerous entities, the custodian replied. Acceptable risk levels for organic beings are significantly lower than for automated systems. That's where you're wrong, Jake said with a grim smile. Humans have a very different relationship with acceptable risk levels. We specialize in missions that should be impossible to survive. The custodian's response came after the longest pause yet. Clarification requested. You are volunteering to engage in deliberate high-risk operations for the purpose of galactic stability? That's what we do, Jake confirmed. It's what we've always done. The silence that followed lasted for nearly an hour. When the custodian finally responded, its mathematical voice carried what might have been surprise. This approach is unprecedented in our records. We will observe your methods. If successful, we will consider revising your threat classification. And if we fail, Captain Zethka asked, then you will be eliminated along with the remaining devourers, the custodian replied matter-of-factly. However, analysis suggests this outcome is now less probable than initially calculated. As a combined human-alien fleet moved toward their first target, a devourer that had been feeding on the remains of a binary star system, Jake couldn't help but smile. Once again, humanity was about to attempt something that every reasonable analysis said was impossible. The difference this time was that they weren't fighting alone. The final devourer hung in space like a cosmic nightmare. Its form stretched across the width of an entire solar system. In the 3 months since the joint human-custodian operations began, this creature had grown to enormous size by feeding on the collapsed remains of 7 star systems. It pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to bend light around them, creating visual distortions that made navigation nearly impossible. Commander Jake Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, now equipped with custodian quantum stabilizers that prevented the ship from being pulled into dimensional folds. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency of soldiers who had performed impossible missions so many times they had become routine. Final approach in 10 minutes, reported Navigator Chun, her instruments displaying readings that would have been gibberish to pre-contact humanity. Target is showing increased agitation. It knows we're coming. The combined fleet had grown since their first joint operation 3 months ago. Alongside the original human and Alliance ships, 2 custodian vessels accompanied them. These ancient machines had observed human tactics with what could only be described as fascination, gradually incorporating human approaches to problem-solving into their own operations. Custodian Prime, Jake addressed the lead automated vessel. Are your dimensional anchors in position? The response came in the same mathematical voice humanity had grown accustomed to, though it now carried subtle inflections that suggested the ancient AI was learning to communicate with organic beings. Anchors deployed. Local spacetime has been stabilized to prevent escape via dimensional folding. Target is confined to current reality layer. Dr. Foster, now bearing scars from multiple close encounters with cosmic horrors, monitored the bio readings from her science station. This one is different from the others. The quantum signature suggests it has been attempting to re-establish connection with its home dimension. If it succeeds, it won't, Jake said firmly. We've stopped 22 of these things. We'll stop this one too. The tactics they had developed over months of cooperation between species that should never have been able to work together had become a deadly art form. Custodian technology provided precision and dimensional control, while human innovation provided the unpredictable elements that kept their enemies from adapting effectively. Initiating Pattern 7 approach, announced Captain Zethka from his Altarian vessel, now equipped with human-designed ramming spikes and custodian reality anchors. All ships, remember the timing has to be perfect. Pattern 7 was Engineer Walsh's masterpiece, a coordinated attack that combined dimensional manipulation with old-fashioned physics in ways that violated several theoretical principles, but worked beautifully in practice. The approach required ships to exist in multiple dimensional layers simultaneously while maintaining formation in normal space. The Devourer began to react as the fleet approached, its massive form writhing and releasing waves of energy that would have destroyed any single ship. But the combined fleet moved like a school of fish, each vessel covering the others while maintaining their complex formation. Energy discharge in 30 seconds, warned Dr. Foster. This is the big one. Jake activated fleet-wide communications. All ships, you know the drill. When that thing tries to fry us, we use its own energy against it. Custodian Prime, are you ready to channel the feedback loop? Affirmative. Energy redirection systems are online. Warning, this approach has never been tested against a target of this magnitude. First time for everything. Jake replied with a grin that had become his trademark. Execute Pattern 7. What happened next would be studied by xenobiologists and dimensional physicists for centuries to come. As the Devourer released a massive energy burst designed to incinerate the attacking fleet, the custodian vessels redirected that energy through human-designed quantum channels, creating a feedback loop that turned the creature's own power against it. The massive entity convulsed as its own life force was used to sever its connection to parallel dimensions. For the first time in eons, it experienced something approaching mortality. Now, Jake shouted, and every ship in the fleet launched their final attack. Human vessels accelerated to ramming speed while alien ships provided supporting fire. Custodian machines deployed dimensional weapons that carved through the creature's form with mathematical precision. The coordinated assault struck the Devourer from 17 different vectors simultaneously. The death of the last Devourer was not the violent explosion that had marked previous victories. Instead, the creature seemed to simply fade away, its bioluminescent patterns growing dim as it lost coherence across multiple dimensions. Within minutes, nothing remained but empty space and the fading echoes of exotic radiation. Target eliminated, Custodian Prime announced. Dimensional stability restored. Threat assessment complete. The silence that followed was profound. After months of desperate battles against cosmic horrors, the galaxy was finally safe from the Devourer invasion. But the true significance of their achievement went far beyond the elimination of a single threat. Commander Rodriguez, Custodian Prime's voice carried new harmonics that suggested something approaching emotion. Our analysis of human tactical methodology has concluded. Your species approaches problem-solving in ways that were not anticipated by our original programming. Is that good or bad? Jake asked. It is educational. For the first time in our operational history, we have encountered a species that consistently succeeds through methods our analysis suggested should fail. This has required significant updates to our threat assessment protocols. Admiral Thexquin's image appeared via quantum link from the fleet's command ship. What does this mean for the Alliance's relationship with the Custodians? It means, Custodian Prime replied, that we are prepared to offer humanity and the new Galactic Alliance a formal partnership agreement. Your species has demonstrated that unconventional approaches to existential threats can be highly effective. We believe this diversity of methodology will be valuable for maintaining galactic stability. The implications were staggering. The Custodians, ancient guardians of dimensional stability, were offering to work with organic species rather than simply monitoring them for potential threats. The partnership would give the Alliance access to technologies and knowledge that predated known civilization by millions of years. There is one condition, Custodian Prime continued. Humanity must agree to serve as the Alliance's primary rapid response force for existential threats. Your species' approach to impossible missions makes you uniquely suited for situations where conventional methods are insufficient. Jake looked around his bridge at the crew that had become his family over the months of desperate battles. These people had faced cosmic horrors, ancient automated weapon systems, and challenges that should have destroyed them. They had not only survived, but found ways to turn every disadvantage into a weapon. "We accept," Jake replied without hesitation. "Someone has to be willing to take on the impossible jobs." President Williams' voice joined the conversation via secure link from Earth. "The human government unanimously approves this partnership. We've gotten pretty good at being the galaxy's problem solvers." The celebration that followed the formal agreement lasted for 3 days and spanned multiple star systems. Refugee populations that had been scattered by the Devourer crisis began returning to their worlds, now protected by the combined might of the Alliance and the Custodians. But for Jake, the most meaningful moment came during a quiet conversation with Custodian Prime in the depths of space near Jupiter's orbit. "Your species is remarkable," the ancient AI said. "In our calculations, the probability of organic beings successfully defending against Devourer incursion was approximately 0.003%. Yet you not only survived, but found a way to eliminate the threat while strengthening galactic civilization." "We had help," Jake pointed out. "The Alliance species provided technology and knowledge we never could have developed alone." "Yes, but you provided something equally valuable. You demonstrated that cooperation between vastly different forms of intelligence can produce results that none could achieve independently. This principle will guide our future operations." As Jake looked out at the stars, now safe from cosmic predators and protected by an alliance between organic life and ancient machines, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had faced extinction and responded by refusing to accept defeat. In doing so, they had not only saved themselves, but helped forge a new era of galactic cooperation. The universe was a dangerous place, filled with threats that could destroy entire civilizations. But it was also full of opportunities for species brave enough to face the impossible and stubborn enough to find solutions where none should exist. Earth had proven that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to ignore the fact that it was supposed to be impossible. The galaxy was about to discover what wonders could be achieved when that philosophy was applied on a cosmic scale. The age of the new Galactic Alliance had begun, with humanity serving as its sword against the darkness, and its beacon of hope that no challenge was too great to overcome. Whatever threats emerged from the vast unknown of space, they would find a galaxy united by the simple human principle that there was always a way to win, no matter how impossible the odds appeared. In the end, that might be humanity's greatest gift to the stars, the absolute refusal to give up.